Environmental activists staged a protest outside a government air quality conference last week against pollution in South Africa. Eskom was named as one of the biggest culprits. They say dirty air is killing people, making them ill and causing billions of rands in environmental and economic damage. The demonstration took place outside the Department of Environmental Affairs' annual Air Quality Governance lekgotla in Johannesburg. It coincided with the release of a report entitled Broken Promises, the Failure of Highveld Priority Areas. For more on this, in the studio, we are now joined by the Department of Environmental Affairs' National Air Quality Officer, Dr. Thuli Khumalo. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's look at the findings that are in this report, the Broken Promises report.
The first one is that the air quality has not improved, which is actually factually incorrect. The air quality has improved. We have not reached compliance. We are working towards that. It is a long-term goal. It has been so in developed countries as well, like the UK and the United States. It takes time, but we are measuring improvements in our monitoring stations. Indeed, air quality is a problem in this country. There's major sources of air pollution, which we are addressing in the legal framework as well as in the work that we do within communities.
Now, one culprit that was mentioned in the report was Eskom. But who and which other entities were mentioned in the report, and have they been held accountable for the air pollution in the country?
There are industries in South Africa. It's a highly industrialized country for the developing country that we are. So we do have Eskom is one of the polluters. We have ArcelorMittal, the steel industry. We also have Sasol, big polluters. We have cement industries. But we have regulations. We control them. They are licensed. They have pollution control, how much they can emit into our atmosphere. But we have other sources of pollution. We have mining emissions from open cast mining. We have domestic burning, which our people burn coal in their homes. We all know that. But we also have a very strongly emerging source, which is vehicle emissions. Vehicle population has grown quite largely in our country. So we do need a strategy that focuses on all the sources, not just Eskom and big industry, because yes, there are big sources of pollution constantly emitting into the atmosphere, not intermittent like you would see vehicle emissions, but we do have other significant sources, and even more significantly so because they emit in the breathing zone, which is exposure is very high.
I want to pick up on the point that you made about coal. The first world is moving towards the elimination of coal power plants. I mean, we've seen reports on that. I'm going to clean air, reusable energy, etc. Let's look at this and where South Africa stands in terms of that and moving forward towards electric cars, for example.
I think South Africa has a great potential. We have wind, we have sun, which are renewable energy sources, but we also have a huge growing economy, which needs base load. So I think as I read the integrated resource plan, we are moving towards cleaner energies, but it's not as fast as you would require for the air to be clean tomorrow,
Now, in terms of clean air and a better environment, a cleaner, more efficient environment, I think sometimes the issues there are like, as an emerging economy, a lot of the issues are socioeconomic issues. So people are worried about bread and butter issues. Do you find that sometimes it's difficult for issues like the environment to come to the fore because we're worried about other things that could be more important or regarded as more important, like unemployment, like poverty?
Indeed. Some of the issues we're dealing with is socio-economic issues. And I often say South Africa has unique problems. We need to develop unique solutions for our problems. So in other countries, for example, in the UK, when domestic burning became an issue in London, they passed a law and said no more domestic burning. You cannot do that in South Africa because we criminalize over half the population. So you need solutions for us that will work for us. And of course, issues like air quality, because nobody can even see the problem as compared to waste management. For example, where people can see uncollected waste. They do take a backseat in a country where there are other developmental imperatives. But we do work hard as a department to raise the awareness and to push the agenda, because really everybody is breathing. And what we breathe is very important.
Now, speaking of pushing agendas, let's look at the importance or the need for innovation when it comes to environmental affairs. How's our focus there as a country, and even just larger as a continent? Are we where we should be at this point in time?
I think we could do better. There are, for example, we still have community protests and people burning tires unnecessarily. One of the things I could say is if waste is not collected, call the municipality to collect the waste instead of burning that waste, because then it causes a problem. But as a continent, as a country, we can do better. If we are more aware of the environmental problems, we certainly should do better. And awareness, I think, and advocacy for environmental issues should still be on top of the agenda.
Just finally, on our quality of air compared to the rest of the world, where do we stand? I think that's a good way to look at where we are and where we should be going moving forward.
We, at the moment, have areas in the country where the air quality is really bad. And the minister has declared those areas priority areas and set up air quality management plans, which we are implementing to try and resolve the solution, the problem. Other countries like the UK, USA, obviously they have resolved the problems over time. And we see emerging, China, for example, they're addressing the problem. So by and large, I would say we have problems that we are working on to address, but we are not the worst in the world.
And our take on the climate agreement. I mean, we've seen what, for example, US President Donald Trump saying that for them, it's not yielding any results. They don't have to be a part of it. In terms of us, where do we stand there? Are we still a strong member of that?
We are a strong member. The government is committed to resolving the issues of climate change, and we have an entire team in the department that works on reducing greenhouse gas emissions over time, which is critical for us because we're a fossil-based economy.
Doctor, we'll have to leave it there. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but thank you very much. It was a very insightful discussion on environmental affairs.
Thank you.
That was the Department of Environmental Affairs National Air Quality Officer, Dr. Thuli Khumalo, joining us for a discussion on environmental issues.